just like to go ahead and make this announcement before we begin. I know all of you have heard this before, but it's legally required that I read it. So, good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Northside Board of Trustees. Before calling the meeting to order, I would like to take just a moment to briefly review some of the rules for conducting our meeting. The order of business for this meeting is set out in the agenda, and one item that you may notice on the agenda is the consent agenda. It includes items that are considered routine or are of a recurring nature. All the items listed under the consent agenda will be acted upon in one motion. If there is a consent agenda item which anyone here would like to address, please sign up to speak to that item, and we will pull it from the consent and discuss it separately. The purpose of our meeting is to conduct board business, and for that reason it is held in public. It is not a public forum. However, we do provide the opportunity for audience participation. If there is anyone who would like to address the board during an agenda item or citizens to be heard portion of the agenda, we ask that you please complete a sign-up sheet located at the entrance to this room. This is so we do not overlook anyone who would like to speak to the board. We will review the rules for addressing the board later in the meeting. Is there anyone here who would like to sign up to an agenda item and has not done so? No big mad dash, right? The meeting will then be officially called to order. Please stand as Trustee Blunt leads us in the invocation and pledges.
We'll do the invocation first. Almighty and merciful God, we ask your guidance and blessings upon this board, students, parents, patrons, teachers, and administrators, as we are assembled here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, Mr. Blunt. So I assume nobody had signed up to do anything, okay. Well, welcome to all of you here tonight. Dr. Harrell said she would be a little late, and I'm sure that Ms. Chumbley will be here probably in just a minute. So with that having been said, we'll go ahead and start with the superintendent's report. Dr. Woods.
Thank you, Ms. Reed, members of the board. A few things to report to you tonight. Want to thank you all for your support of new school dedications that we've had in the last couple of weeks here. Also want to thank folks in communications, Barry and Monica and their team always do such a great job with those events. It was very nice to celebrate with Mr. and his family, Mr. Fields and his family on the dedications of those two new really beautiful schools. Also recently, and Ms. Reed may have wanted to talk about this, and she certainly can do that, but she and I had the opportunity to attend the State of the County address, and one of the things that was discussed was public education in the county, and our school district was highlighted others for increases in career and technology enrollment, very large increases since the passage of House Bill 5. He was very complimentary of the work that we've done. So thanks to all of those folks, especially on our high school campuses, who have expanded that enrollment among our high school students really by a pretty dramatic number, 35% in the 3.5 years since House Bill 5 passed into law. So pretty dramatic increase. I was able to attend Arbor Day celebration at Carnahan. That's an annual event put on by Kent Page, who's a fifth grade teacher, science facilitator there, and really has led what's become a movement. We have those kinds of around what's known as Project Acorn, and Monica probably told me what Acorn stands for, and I don't remember, but it's something about planting native trees, and that movement around over 30 Northside campuses now, where you've got groups of kids who are planting native trees around the facility, around the campus facility. It was, as usual, a great event. For your calendar upcoming, right after the Thanksgiving holiday, we do have the sports gym on the 30th of this month, so if you'll please make sure that is on your calendar. I know the members of the board have been able to see the building, and it is beautiful. That's compliments to this board, to Leroy and Henry and their staff, and to this athletic staff who really work together to collaborate on a really building. I want to thank a lot of folks. Start with Ray Galindo and his group, Levy, and all of them. But our high school, all of our school principals, we serve, as we typically do in a large election, to host multiple voting sites. This last time it was over 60 sites. 60 schools were election sites. And about weeks out from the election, I got a little concerned with the tone and got really worried about what that was going to look like on election day our schools, and Ray and his group really put together a plan with our police department to make sure that we had cabinet level administrators, that we had police officers at all levels, and we all went and visited, and it was a great day. Smooth for voters, smooth for kids and parents. It was really good, thanks to all of those folks as well. Last week we held the sporting clay tournament for the foundation. Had a 50% increase in participation from the year before, so.
And the weather wasn't even very good.
No, for that event, it was really good. I think Joelle shot perfect, 50 out of 50, right? No,
Yeah.
That's a nasty rumor. Okay, great, but really a great event. Thanks to Cassandra and her group for putting on a nice event there. Last Friday, we celebrated Veterans Day. All of us got out and tried to attend Veterans Day ceremonies. I got to go to one. It just so happened that the one I picked is on the far end of the district, and it was literally, I got to one. And but really nice. We continued that into the evening at our 2 football playoff games that we hosted. We honored at that event. And I'll maybe the moment that I appreciated the most was standing there with probably 5 dozen veterans on the north end zone at Gus Stadium, with folks presenting our school and the visiting school all standing intermingled together. It was really a nice tribute. Really appreciated being there for sure. We are starting science fair. I actually got to go judge at the Stinson Middle School Science Fair today and learned several things about physics that I did not obviously know. John Jay hosts one of the largest science in this part of the state, and that's actually the first weekend in December. And I know Ms. McGee sent you an invitation to participate in that. So with that, we'll transition to a video moment, and this particular video moment is highlighting music program for students with special needs at Lewis Elementary.
Lewis Elementary School is taking the lead to create a music program for special needs students. For the first time, the children are part of the music class rotation, and so far, the results have been amazing. Autumn leaves are falling. Lewis Elementary Principal Angela Fry recalls not too long ago, many of these autistic and ALE students were too timid to participate in music class.
They're more social. They will come up to you and hug you, where at one point they shied away from you. They are recognizing each other more, and they are interacting with each other as well.
The students have been participating in Miss Selena Irby's music class since the start of the school year. The students are each progressing at their own pace, but for many, this includes singing and dancing.
I like singing and dancing. Watch this.
Wow.
Yeah! Everybody make a pie.
Their teacher says singing seems to help the students master speech goals. Dancing with various props and taking a turn to play some of the instruments is helping them refine their motor skills.
There's a lot of stuff I like to do with sensory, especially for my students with autism. They need things to touch, they need to feel the vibrations of the instruments. It's a very explorative experience for them.
Ready? Once little came tumbling.
Nice job, play whatever you want. Play a solo,
We are put at the task of educating all learners. So that's not just our typically developing kids, that includes everyone that comes through our doors.
These students have potential, and they are accelerating their development in a comfortable and risk-free environment that allows them to just be kids. The Lewis Elementary Music Program for children with special needs is exploratory, but the music teacher says it's coming along as she incorporates lessons she is using in other classes and adapts them to keep her students engaged.
that's what makes us great public schools, because we educate everybody.
Yeah, and I that's a great point, and I'll also say that you see in that the creativity of a great teacher. You know, a teacher who's really willing to try to go to where her kids are and try to meet their needs. That's pretty special. So I'll just close by wishing the members of this board and the members of this audience a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday next week. Hope everybody gets a little time to be with people you enjoy and do the things that you like to do. And that concludes Superintendent's report. Ms. Reed.
Dr. Woods, board members, if you have things that you'd like to share? Somebody? Mr. Medina?
Thank you, Board. Again, I wanted to also recognize the early Cole and Randy Fields Elementary's dedication. The children, the administration welcomed us with open arms, and it was very pleasing to see family members, supporters of both Cole and Randy Fields being present there. It was a wonderful experience. I also wanted to recognize Policy Committee has been meeting with state representatives, reiterating Northside's ISD's legislative priorities, including financing, governance, assessment, accountability, and so forth. We met, well, surprisingly on Halloween with Justin Rodriguez, and so I just wanted to also make a statement on that. Veterans Day was not only symbolic, rewarding, due to San Antonio being a military city, and not only that, but also recognizing Northside alumni, family members, parents, brothers, and all those extended their appreciation for their sacrifice and being defenders of our freedom. Also, lastly, the regional auditions for orchestra, my son, Dr. Wood's son, and many other Northside ISD students participated in auditions, and it was tremendous to see not only students so determined to work so hard and put in that extra time, but also the family members. I got to speak to parents, so excited for their child to compete, and I wanted to also just recognize all those students for competing that past weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Freeman?
Thank you, Ms. Reed. I guess it was about a week and a half ago, the Friends of Northside had an event at NAC in which they called, I can't think of the name of it, it was an authors event where they invited local authors to come and share with some librarians, and as a board we were invited. I was very happy to be able to, and it was kind of like a, I don't know how to describe it except for maybe speed dating. So if there were like 8 people at a table, it was a table of 10, and there were 2 empty chairs. So the authors sat in those 2 empty chairs, and a bell that was rung, and we talked to one author, and then another bell, and you talked to the other author, and then they went to another table. But we have interesting local talent. Some of them actually go to our school. There was one refugee teacher, ESL teacher at Rawlinson Middle School, and oh my gosh, Brian, I can't think of his name. Anyway, a refugee here, and he wrote a book about his story and how he got here, and it was quite a moving story that he told, and interesting as well. We also had 2 illustrators that came to talk to us. Anyway, really great event, and certainly a lot of librarians there talking about their expanded in Northside in the libraries, and our libraries have taken on a different type of a flavor, a more expanded role, more inviting, if you will. For libraries are no longer the place that you go and everybody's really quiet and the librarian walks around and goes, shh. It doesn't happen anymore in our libraries. They're a very lively place and should be, and so I appreciate the invitation there. Also, I want to congratulate our band students. They competed in area UIL a couple weeks ago. I know several staff and certainly a lot of parents attended. I was able to be there, and Gerald was there. We watched the finals, and 3 of our bands made it into the finals. They all did a great job. It was really a tough competition in the area in which we currently compete. And I think that would be, oh, and Bobby, thank you for leading the Bexar County School Board Coalition. We had a meeting last night, and then we were invited by Northeast ISD, and so they not only their children served us dinner, but then we were invited into their boardroom, and we sat at another board meeting last night, but at a different type of a role. So we appreciate the invitation. And Bobby, thank you for arranging that, because that's really cool to watch another board in action. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blunt?
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit repetitive. I'm sorry I missed the library event, but I don't know if I told my wife I went to a speed dating event.
I know.
I described it. No, I also want to pass on my gratitude for our school dedications from a different perspective. The number of community people that continue to be amazed and by the thank yous they give, the process that's used, and how we go about that tribute. I mean, it's just over and over again. People continue to praise. So really glad for everybody that really supported our school dedications for the 2 namesakes that we had. The other one that Karen talked about, it was great. We had more participants than we thought because it was a busy night for school board meetings, but we did have 11 different boards represented last night at our Bexar County School Board Coalition meeting at Northeast, and had them as far away as South San. And I've got South San agreed to host in the March time period, and SISD is going to host one in January. But even Seguin, folks from Seguin see what we were doing, so it was a really good occasion. And that's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and sorry, I forgot to mention, thanks to both Katie and Karen also for attending for Northside.
Sure. Dr. Harrell?
Thank you, Ms. Reed. I do want to, this may sound a little repetitious, but honor our veterans as well from Northside. And, our schools and our kids and our families, it's not a 5-day-a-week business. They show up on Saturdays and Sundays. And so I got to see yesterday at the Helotes Community Band concert for the veterans. It was a packed house. Veterans from every branch of the services were there. But the group that got and of course our veterans got standing ovations. But the Kuntz Elementary School got 3 standing ovations, and it was wonderful to see the Helotes Community Band band marshal directed by both Chuck Kuntz and Charles Kuntz. And so the kids actually got to see their namesake and his son and all his children. There's a million Kuntzes out there in all their glory. So it was wonderful. And I just want to put a plug in for it. The Helotes Community Band has a website. It is the most phenomenal concert. It was very emotional. Men who had served in several wars, like my father, were very teary-eyed. It was a wonderful tribute. And then I saw our kids at a celebration, which was a citywide event held at Mission Library Saturday. And so storytelling in Northside is seen during the day, certainly sponsored by librarians and teachers, but after school and on weekends. And that was really nice to have Northside represented at that. Boone Elementary School had a wonderful wellness and health fair where Mr. Nuremberg, our councilman, he was also at the Veterans Day parade at Leon, or the Veterans Day tribute at Leon Springs on Friday, but also showed up to meet families that had been displaced by some poor housing conditions, but yet Northside had chosen to transport them from wherever they were going to move to the school, to Boone Elementary, so they could continue with and they were very grateful. As I walked around with the principal, they expressed their thanks for Northside really watching out for the best interest of their families. And it was a wellness and health fair, but it really was good for the heart as well. And so thank you, staff and Dr. Woods, for making that possible. Let me put my glasses on. Who else do I thank?
Levy,
Oh, Levy, thank you so much. Sorry about that, but thank you. They were really, it was very heartfelt. Why are you laughing? That was a nice thing. Never know. Bobby's kind of sneaky. So Boone, oh, and then top of, I know we mentioned last time about Leon Springs 25th, but we have Colonies North coming up tomorrow, and it's their 50th. And so I had a little brother who went to Colonies, so I'm gonna swing by and see if there's any teachers that remember him. But also to staff and families of Northside, and certainly our kids and our board members have a happy Thanksgiving. We have a lot to be thankful for. We get to work in Northside and we get to serve in Northside, so take care.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Lopez?
Thank you very much, Katie. Yeah, I did have a chance to participate and actually attend the Judson and O'Connor game this past weekend. But one thing I wanted to share, and I wanted to thank Stan for this, was it was during Veterans Day as well, and we were honoring our veterans. But I thought the way he did it and the way he organized it was very classy. I appreciated the way he honored them. He had all the veterans line up at the goal line, and as the O'Connor band was playing, they played each song for each service, for the Marines, the Air Force, played each song for them. And as they played, the veterans were asked to stand up and be recognized. So I thought it was very well run. I appreciated the way he honored them, and it was at both fields, at Ferris as well, the Gustafson Stadium. So that was very well run. I want to thank Stan for doing that. It really shows the amount of respect that we have for our veterans, being that this is military city. So thanks, Stan, he did a great job. And everybody else that participated in that as well. So, and that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. I guess to add on to that, Ms. Chumley and I were there at Ferris along with Gerald, and we were actually invited to come down on the field, and we actually shook the hands of all of our veterans that were lined up there. And it was not just veterans from Northside students, it was also those from Judson. And it was a very moving time. And they were very, very appreciative of the fact that we were down there with them and celebrating that. And it was a great idea that Stan had for us to do that. It's a very moving time for the veterans, and when he asked them all to take a step forward when they played their song, you could see how proud they all were that they had served, especially the Marines. Mm-hmm. There is something about the Marines and the posture that they present when they are not at ease, but at attention, that is just real special. So it was a very nice, and it was just a wow evening because we had just been in the big new gymnasium, and as Stan said, everybody that comes in says, wow. And that's really the feeling you get when you do walk in there. Hopefully all of you will be able to get out there soon to see something. They're playing basketball there already, the girls are, and the boys will be there starting next week? This week. So there are games going on out there. Come see. It's a beautiful facility. We unfortunately do not have anybody left playing volleyball. Our girls from Brandeis lost their in the finals, the region down Berg last Saturday. And but we were hoping they were going to make it all the way to state. Just missed it just a little bit. And so far as the football players are concerned, we still have a team left in, and that would be Brennan. So we're going to hopefully encourage them to move forward as well. We are meeting with the one thing I did want to mention also, when we had all these celebrations all across Northside School District for Veterans Day, ironically, I saw that we actually had one of our representatives, Mr. Hurd, that came at Leon Valley, because that's where he had attended school at one time. And so he has just recently been reelected, and he was there for that celebration. So that was nice to have him there as well. And we'll be meeting with other legislators, both at the state level and at the national level very soon. I think tomorrow, 3 of us up in Austin meeting with the Speaker's office. So to talk about educational issues. Wanted to let you know that I had been part of a panel discussion at the Women in Transportation luncheon, and my husband said, "Why are they asking you?" And I said, "Well, we are involved in transportation, and we do have more buses than VIA." And he said, "Oh yeah, are you going to tell them that?" And I said, "Sure I am." Mainly because we have more than twice as many buses as VIA does, and don't know that, that's a fact. And our buses run lots of routes every day, and we bus 70,000 students, almost 68, close to 70,000 students every day. So we are big into transportation, much bigger than any of the other punts that were on that panel with me. So it was fun to be there, and when I said that, before I said that number, because I've said it for a lot of years that we have more buses than VIA, I did check with the lady from VIA, and I said, "How many buses do you have?" And they have 420 or something like that. So, and we have 914. So there you go. Lots of things going on, and the dedication ceremonies have been great, and now we are into also anniversary celebrations, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow, because Colonies North is where my children went to school. It was a very small school then, so it'll be fun to be there with them, and the difference in the diversity of that campus since when my children were there is just phenomenal. So looking forward to it. And welcome, Ms. Chumley. So we are all here, present and accounted for now. So if you have something you want to share real quick, got to do it now.
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay, well, that having been said, I think we will move forward to recognitions.
I think you're right. I think we will.
No, you already did. My hand's cramping. No.
Let me make sure I have all my phones off.
As you're coming down, it's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Adriana Garza, the current principal of Broccoli Elementary School. Recently awarded the Brown-Lee Leadership Award by the Texas Association of Curriculum and Development. It's the highest award given by Texas ASCD. This award recognizes and honors a Texas ASCD member who has performed instructional, supervisory, curricular duties and responsibilities in an exemplary manner that are aligned with the organization. Adriana began her career as a bilingual pre-K and first grade teacher at Zachary Elementary in Laredo, ISD. While in Laredo, she served as the project teams coordinator and was a principal at 2 elementary schools, as well as being a grant coordinator. She moved to Northside in October 2007 to work as a transition to teaching project specialist before becoming vice principal at Kuntz Elementary when it opened in 2009. She was tapped to be principal at Broccoli Elementary in 2012. So I'm happy to introduce Adriana Garza.
This was the event where Adriana's teacher was honored, and Dr. Mora was honored. This was
Yes. Are there any family members, Adriana's family members?
We're her family tonight.
That's right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. This concludes the recognition.
That's it.
Chair break? I think I broke something. Oh, it's the thing on the front, isn't it? Is it the thing right here? Oh, well, that's all right. That's right, it was broken down here.
and traveling down.
I remember that. It was loose.
Super glue.
Little glue or a little thumbtack or something over there that's needed probably. Okay, so that's the only recognition item. There are no other reports, so we will move ahead to the consent agenda. Is there anyone here who wanted to address any items on the consent agenda? And if not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. And we have no citizens to be heard, and there's nothing on curriculum and instruction, so we're ready for facilities. Boy, you guys got to get up early tonight, huh? Yeah. Very good.
Ms. Reed, what we realized in studying our first project listed under facilities is we need to do some more work. So we need to do some more master plan. With the board's permission, we're going to pull item A, try to bring that back to you at a later time. And so we're ready to move on to item B. That's all right.
Thank you. Mr. San Miguel.
Yes, on, excuse me, on item B, this item is really an approval of the schematic design of Glen Oaks, but rather a presentation of 5 schools that we have master plan, and you've seen some evidence of that. Boone, John Glenn, and one of the things that we've been talking, especially in the building committee, is about how do we plan for the orderly growth in our facilities. However, of these 5 schools that we're going to present, John Glenn is kind of at the tail end, so we'll show you what Glen Oaks, excuse me, will look like in terms of a master plan. And hopefully we can get your thoughts on some of especially at Glen Oaks at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joelle, who has the honor of showing us a couple of schools in terms of a master plan.
So while Joelle's getting me, just build a little bit more context for those of you who aren't always at building committee. So one of the questions that came along the lines of master planning was around our older buildings that are pod design, generally built in the 50s and 60s, and what might we do with them long term, not one bond cycle from now, or even 2 bond cycles, but several bond cycles. What might you do to those? So that's the question that we asked Joelle to answer. And so these are 30-foot looks at what could happen using future bond cycles at these schools, and then we'll circle back to Glen Oaks, where we've got some more work in the 2014 bond to do.
Great. Great setup. Thank you.
You bet.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Woods, we're here to present basically a broad overview, I'm sorry, you've got the clicker, Monica, of this master plan study. And the 5 that we did were Cable, Glen Oaks, Powell, Westwood Terrace, and Valley High. The first one we'll be looking at is Cable. One more. And in our proposed master plan, this is just kind of an aerial looking at Cable Elementary School. We took the approach, once again, from 10,000 feet, looking at 2 main things. One is the educational adequacy, and the other being the adequacy of all the buildings. The educational one was pretty cut and dry. What we looked at was whether it met your current D standards for an elementary school. For the conditional, we looked at more of an age thing. As architects, when we design facilities for you, the approach is design them as a 50-year building. So by then, you're either doing a major renovation or you're replacing a building. Having said that, we basically categorized them, anything that exceeded 40 years as poor, fair if it was 25 to 40, adequate 11 to 25, and excellent obviously is at 5 to 10. So that was just kind of a broad overview. Obviously, once you do decide to proceed with any of these campuses, you would do something more comprehensive. By doing so, as you can see, most of the buildings range in the 50 and up. So,
But Joelle, would they necessarily be poor just because they're old?
no, not necessarily.
Because we keep our
because a lot of these facilities
up.
are pretty well kept.
Yeah.
The problem lies, though, is that the cost to upkeep an older building, like a car, sometimes at some point it just doesn't make good business sense to really continue to pour money on a building when you might be better served if you took the, maybe talk about replacing. So.
This is really just measuring age, that's all it is.
Right, so this is not, we're not by any means saying it.
Okay, yeah, I just need to clarify, so really
It's
this
measuring
is,
age.
Yes,
that was really what you, so
Yes,
you're not
yes.
measuring condition though.
absolutely
in
not.
any
As a matter of
manner.
fact, when we did through a lot of the, once you're inside, they all look like new schools. They're very well kept, they're very well maintained.
Okay.
We were looking at it more from a broad context. And then also looking at it is how would we apply some of the design features that, or amenities that you would try to incorporate into a new school. So this is kind of the current condition. So as you can see, one of the first things we might look at is looking at demolishing buildings A, C, and D, which are all relatively a year older buildings there. And then, next slide, is coming in, replacing it with a new kind of tower piece like you often do with your entries to identify the front door, and then provide new classrooms and administration.
Go back just one more.
One more.
Okay, so A. But not E and F.
No.
Okay.
E and F are in the
They're new.
15 to 30 year range.
But
Since
they're
they were last-
but they're still poor.
Well, they're in the fair to adequate, range. And once again, this is, like I said, just big picture of how we might approach it. Obviously, if
Okay.
you decide to move forward with any of these campuses, our recommendation would be obviously to allow us to do it, but another architect could do it as well, and develop the actual plan for how you would go about approaching it. But this is just kind of the broad view of it. Once again, looking at 10,000 feet.
Okay.
All right, next slide, please. So that would be, the next phase would be replacing buildings E and demolishing the old gym, which was built in '75. And then coming in with a new classroom block and a new gymnasium. Once again, taking into account the existing cafeterias here. So we're starting to try to make those connections as you do. So the cafeteria gymnasium attached or at least adjacent to each other, nice clear sense of entry, and then administration with library and all that up at the front. Those are some of the similar features that you would do. So kind of just a quick snapshot. Next one is Powell. This is an aerial view of this. This is built in the 60s. Hexagon kind of pods, somewhat distant cousin of Glen Oaks. So this is the view of it in our proposed master plan. Once again, same criteria. And then the next slide, we kind of identify the build. See, most of these are 40 and above, 40 to 55 years. And keeping in mind, as Dr. Woods mentioned, we're looking 2-3 bombs down the line, which could be 15 years from now. So you kind of have to add those kind of numbers to that. That's why we're kind of just giving a big, broad view. Next slide, we're looking at eliminating buildings be a first good step, and then obviously indicating, providing for a new, this is the cafeteria here. So now we're looking at a gymnasium cafeteria connection again, a classroom pod, creating a new library or a temporary library in the old gymnasium. Next slide, please. Then we would look at buildings A and 8, which were built in 1962. And then coming in with classrooms and a new administration and library at the front, so that we kind of take advantage of that existing loop there, and we've got another loop on the back which we could use as well. One of the features that we found as we were doing this, this one has, and I don't know if you've ever been to Powell, but it has those concrete structures that are kind of a tulip shape, that are kind of a nice feature, and in talking to people on campus, it was something that they're very fond of. So as part of this kind of design, we kind of created a courtyard that kind of exists now, but now we have all interconnected buildings that kind of revolve around that courtyard. Next slide, please. So then the last one would be Building J and the DO Gymnasium. And then the next one would be portables, and then creating perhaps one large parking lot, which could go from one street to the other, connecting the two. And now we kind of really have created a courtyard so that those existing components could still be used. Next one is Valley High. This one was relatively easy.
Get rid of
Coming.
everything.
Here we go. All right, so, next slide, please. So in these, we've got these buildings that were built in the late '99, somewhere around there, that are obviously in good shape. They're 17 years old. But the rest of your buildings are 50 and above. So one approach is to go ahead and look at replacing those and coming in with a building D&E, which are your 2 classroom buildings, and then coming in with a block. And once again, this is all very generic. One approach we talked about was perhaps taking this classroom block and stacking it above this and making it a 2-story facility so that we could create a larger playground area as well as perhaps a better buffer between this drainage that exists kind of right along. If you've ever been to Valley High, there's currently bridges that get you into the playground area, those kinds of things. So if you could imagine this block on top of this one, you would then have all of this as a playfield area so that the children could play. And then on the next one, we would look at replacing the gym, connecting it to the actual facility. So once again, you've got one complete and interconnected facility. And then lastly, we would look at relocating those portables out of there. Next one.
By the way, Greg Galendo's first job was in one of those.
Yeah, it was in the circular when he showed it to us.
1992.
There's a plaque there, I think. Next one is Westwood Terrace. We're almost there to the finish line here. Next slide, please. So in this one, once again, 60s type school. You kind of had an old, the front entry is right in this area here. Cafeteria in this particular design is at the center of the school. So you got classroom block here, and then this long new classroom block that was added. So keep that in mind, because if you've been there, you know now that the administration has been relocated to the backside. So just instinctively, as most people come, me included, you come, you think the front door, you park there, only to find out you have to walk all the way around. Challenges with those kinds of things and why they're important, I don't say that to be facetious, is that security is a big part of all these schools. And when people don't know where the front doors are, it's very easy to have people walking around your campus when they shouldn't be. So one easy way to do it is give them the visual cues that people would assume. And by assuming, I mean you got to drive in a parking lot at the front, you assume that's the front door, and it no longer is. So this is going to try to address some of those issues. So as you can see, most of your facilities are 40 years and above. First step that we would look at is perhaps A, B, and C. So they range from 1961 through 67. And then replacing those with a new cafeteria gymnasium back in this area here, so that you have that connection as you normally do. New front door now that's easily accessible and noticed. And then the classroom and the administration of classrooms up front. Next item, we would look at taking buildings E and G, both built on, and creating a new classroom block there. So now we're starting to create this interconnected piece once again. Next, we would remove that portable building in the old gymnasium, and now we've created a nice large area for a playground, as well as all the hardscapes and those kinds of things that are amenities in a new school. So now let's get to what we're really here for, Glen Oaks. Glen Oaks, I'll be quick. All right, the first phase, you've already attacked. The first was to
There it is.
here we go, yes. So most of our buildings here are 40 to 50 some odd years old. But the first step was obviously to look at the new administration, which is the one that's currently under construction. So as part of this, we did do a phasing plan. And the first phase was to relocate or replace the administration building. That was included in your 2014 bond, and it included to demolish the existing building. As part of that, we developed a new administrative building, a new security lobby, a revised parking, and also a new parent drop-off. Phase 2 included, as part of the master plan, was the existing, replacing the library, as well as this classroom pod C, which was built in 1960. We would provide the new library and move it from back in this area where it was to the front of the school, like you do in your new facilities. and then provide new classroom spaces to replace the ones that were taken out. In phase 3, we would propose taking out buildings D, E, and G, all built in 1960, and replacing them with classroom pods. So now, as you can see, this newer building, which was built in the late 80s, 90s, would now be interconnected as one connected. And then phase 4 would include removing the gymnasium, the art and music room, and the existing cafeteria, and replace one new cafeteria gymnasium to mimic those that you have in your current standards. And then lastly, remove all the portables and regain all that playground space. So part of what prompted that question or design was this project regarding the window upgrades. In it, we were to replace existing classroom windows, replace, as part of the ADA, replace a handful of doors that didn't have compliant hardware, replace some of the drinking fountains which are non-compliant as well, and then to upgrade a handful of restrooms that are non-compliant. Pretty straightforward stuff. Now it's a little difficult to see, but this is kind of an overview of Glen Oaks Elementary School. The highlighted dashes that you see in red are the windows that need replacement. Some of them have already been replaced. So basically the ones in building F, each one of these classroom pods has 4 windows, and then we have a handful here in the gymnasium, and then like one in the cafeteria. The highlighted areas here are the restrooms that need addressing, and as you can see, the real challenge in these classroom pods is the fact that they're standalone classroom pods. We have a small restroom. Your classrooms are already undersized, so there's nowhere to go with these. So one of the things that we proposed was perhaps considering, should you decide to proceed with the master plan, is that we would identify the areas shaded in gray or green to be the ones that we take on as part of the project, and the others, which may be at some point demolished or replaced, you might want to consider. One of the things we're making that evaluation, simple reason is because the windows themselves currently are not in need of repair. They're not leaking or anything like that. So it's not something that needs to be done immediately. But more importantly, we just wanted to flag it as an item that should you consider the master plan direction, it would seem like spending money on these windows would not be a good choice. So should you decide to just take our recommendation, the selected areas would basically drop the cost to about $315,000 for the upgrades and the windows.
And then we would delay the rest of the work that done at the campus until a later date.
Yeah, right. And the other half of the project included renovation to the library. So obviously in our master plan that was done prior or after, I guess, this project, we then decided to give you some options on how we would approach that. And there's basically 5 options. The first one being what we'll call postpone, and it's taking your existing library, which is located right in here. We've got some images of that. So as you can see, Building F, which is the newest building in our master plan, is being kept, is basically this in this direction. This was an old pod, classroom pod of sorts, or designed exactly the same as the pods, that was just attached to. So that's your current existing library from the outside. So here's another view of it from the other corner. And then we've got some shots of the inside. So here's kind of the front of the school. So as you can see, all the pods are connected via covered canopies. This is the inside, and by the way, this is summer. They were in transition, in all fairness to the librarian. So there was boxes all over the place. But you get the idea. It's a pretty open. So, currently what we have is basically this open kind of library with a couple of offices. And it's currently, if you just look at that space, it's about 540 square feet undersized from your current standards. So that area there is what is highlighted is 540 square feet. So should you choose to postpone, obviously the cost would be 0. And the only item we need to address is the fact that it's still 540 square feet. That's option number one. Option number two is to refurbish. And in refurbish, we take that existing library again, and basically provide finish upgrades. And in it, we would take that same square footage, and once again, just trying to keep the cost low without moving wall, electricity, or any of those items, and basically give it the facelift. So we're talking about new carpet, new paint, new ceiling, new lighting. Those kinds of things are pretty simple to do. In this scenario, you'd still be 540 square feet, undersized, and the cost would be about $315,000. Option number three, we call renovate. In renovate, we take that existing library. Next slide. This is your current existing library, but now we're going to capture that counselor's office. Since we're renovating and we're moving walls and all of that, we have a little bit more freedom. So if we take this whole block, which is basically your old existing classroom pod that's been converted into a library, and redesign it. Next slide, please. There it is. Now we're looking at having all of the amenities, including the square footage that you would have in a new elementary school. So now we're up to par. That we would be looking at $594,000, give or take. But now we meet current standards in that existing facility. The next option is to replace the actual old classroom pod. So we're basically taking that and just removing it.
Wait a minute, Joelle.
Yes, ma'am.
Melissa, do you have a question
No,
about
I'll
what?
wait till he finishes
Okay.
with this one. I didn't
Okay,
realize
thank
Katie had one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're taking the existing library and creating 4 classrooms, and the 4 classrooms that were in the pod up here moved to there, and now we create a new library that's a completely new building up at the front of the school. Now we're looking at $2.9 million in it. We're looking at providing a new library and then converting the existing library into 4 new classrooms. The next one is the Renovate Plus. Couldn't come up with a different name. In it, we look at now taking the next space and basically demolishing the old pod and demolishing the pod up at the front of the school. So now we're taking both out, coming in with a new library and then a new connection piece with the 4 classrooms in preparation for what comes later in the master plan. In this case, we're looking at $3.9 million or $4 million. So, next slide. So, just to kind of put things, hopefully, apples to apples as best we can, we developed this kind of chart so that you could see them side by side. So basically, option number 1 is the as is and just leave it alone. And then the other extreme is option number 5, which is replacing buildings in preparation or in execution of the master plan that was proposed earlier in the evening. So, and with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Okay, Ms. Chambly?
So what is the timeline? I mean, what do we have planned right now?
What's in
I
the
mean-
bond program is library, ADA, and Windows upgrades. That's what's in the 2014 bond. And we had anticipated that we start doing that this summer coming, so to speak. That was the original timeline that we had worked on.
What's in the administration and what Joelle is doing right now in there? That's 2014, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a separate project under the 14.
Yeah, it's separate. There were two pieces. We didn't dare touch administration and library at the same time because we create havoc. So we split them up, and we wanted to do the administration first and then move them in and then start the library, Windows, and ADA. So that's what's in the bond.
And so where are we on our timeline in relation to the construction that's going on at Glen Oaks right now?
Glen Oaks will finish probably middle end of April.
Okay.
When that'll finish. The original, before the kink that I threw in, plan was for a lot of this work, especially the ADA and the window work, to occur this summer. That was the game plan. So we would finish the admin, then we would move them into that, and then we would do the renovations to the windows and the restrooms, only because that ADA work, as well as the windows, isn't the type of work that can happen during the school year. We're taking out things were being pretty disruptive.
But why do that if we're gonna turn around and eventually tear them down anyway?
That's the point.
Yeah.
There's the.
But I'm just trying to figure out, I'm trying to get
So,
around the timeline. So the timeline was initially, so you're on,
Yeah.
you're on schedule with, so you're doing the admin and the cafeteria, just that. Joelle, you're doing the front, the admin,
Just the admin.
That's
That's
it.
it.
just the admin area. But it did impact how the kids come into the cafeteria.
Yes.
Hallway.
I know,
The
with,
connection
there was
is
that,
finished,
there was
they'll
the
have a
hallway, so
connection
that's,
That's correct.
okay. And so that's on time to be finished, and that was always planned.
That's correct.
And then the next step in 2014, we have money to do the library,
Library, ADA,
ADA.
and
Library model.
the
Windows.
library, it was as a renovation of the existing library. That's what was in the bond.
And the
then
windows.
ADA and window work.
And how much money is that?
That was about 2.4. Yeah,
Actually,
about
2.4 is just that.
No,
We
it's a
discussed
total.
that.
So we're about $500,000 off to do option 4. From a time perspective, what would it take to do option 4?
To do the whole thing, to do, in terms of the time,
Mm-hmm.
construction
Right.
time would be 8
We'd
to.
probably be looking at a whole nother year if.
About 8 months total.
So you
Once we
would start when?
Well, depending on what we talk about today and what we decide, then we'll have to come back to do a schedule, because we're off schedule in terms of providing the library upgrades at this point in time. So it depends on how complex it gets. So if you say, we would like for you to consider a brand-new library, now we gotta redevelop the schedule for that. But if we say, we're just gonna do a cosmetic, upgrade of the existing library, that could be done this summer coming.
That's almost $400,000 for something that the plan is,
In the wrong place.
yeah, to tear down and start again.
One thing to kind of help frame the conversation, and this is what I said to the group last week, is that options, the concern that you're expressing is the exact same concern that I have around options 2, 3, 4, frankly, which is, in each of those cases, some amount of funding will be put into a building that will, in the relative near future, not tomorrow, but in the relative near future, we very likely want to tear down. So my recommendation to you would be do the window and ADA work that Joelle highlighted in that slide earlier, which leaves these buildings that we would likely affect in the next bond cycle out, so you're not spending money in those buildings. And then defer the library project until the next bond cycle, and essentially, if we can go, let's go all the way back to your phasing on Glen Oaks.
That was what I was trying to figure out, though, Brian, is what you're saying then, if we defer it, we're taking it from when was it anticipated to where now are you talking about? So
What-
you're talking about it was anticipated
Summer of
this
17.
summer of
right?
17.
That's correct.
And it would move out, say, 2 years minimum, maybe 3. Probably 2.
I don't like that at all.
What we had also talked about is we'll delay that project for the next bond, so to speak, and then we can do the design work if it's acceptable, and then get ready and get the other funding to be able to do the classroom and do it all at one time. So we would compress time a little bit. All that we have to do is just make sure that we get all the drawings done by the next bond, which would be in teen, and then shortly thereafter start the project.
Yeah, so let's look at the phasing. Let's go back. I want to see, what you called phase 2 and so forth.
So phase 1, let's go back one. This is phase 1.
Right, so that's what's being done right now.
Right
That's
now.
done,
Right.
right.
So what I'm suggesting is, if we go forward, keep going, that this phase would be a part of the 2018 bond, which would address the library as well as the building C, which is the one that right now is right up at the front of the school.
They're basically swapping places.
And then,
And now click here, new library up front.
keep going, and then do this work in addition to that.
Now we've got all our classrooms connected, library and admin at the front, and the only thing left to do somewhere way down the line would be the gymnasium.
In your phasing, you're taking the 4 classrooms, changing them, and then still coming back. Are you building them where you can build around them?
We're gonna have to take them down.
Well, then that phasing doesn't make any sense if the whole board is for us to,
Yes, we are replacing them.
We're taking them down.
That's why,
I know, but not, go back,
that's why in this phase,
because in that phase you are doing,
we're doing new.
and then in the next phase, you're tearing out what we just did new.
No, we're not.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying, that's what I'm asking.
Yes, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. In the next phase, we're adding around it.
Okay, that's what I asked, is so what you would be building is you'd be building a classroom building that you could build around.
Right.
Right.
Leroy, which it,
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Yes. But we physically have to take the pots down so we can put the new classroom building in.
right, but the new classroom building is in the phase prior to this. And then now on this one, you're building the rest of the classrooms around that new classroom building that you've already built. Okay, that's what I'm,
Okay, right.
yeah.
I think what Dr. Woods was suggesting was doing all of this at one time, so you're not building around anything, you're building all of it at the same time.
That's exactly what I'm suggesting.
2 to 3 years down.
Yeah. So really what you're doing from a functional standpoint is you're delaying a renovation of the library in lieu of a completely brand new library
And classrooms.
and classrooms.
Okay. Other questions from anybody else?
So all of this would happen similarly.
We have to put 4 million right now.
Okay. So tonight, we are planning on voting on what direction to take on this, or this is just a presentation to think about?
It's really just a presentation. What we need to be able to do is, the immediate decision is how much of the window and ADA work do we want to do? That's the thing that Joel really mentioned on, so that obviously he can go to schematic and get that knocked out.
And the recommendation is to not do
Recommendation
the
is
windows
to-
in the old that will be
Just do the
torn
ones that
down?
won't be.
That is correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, just do those.
Just do
ones.
those that are in the newer.
Thought it was important for you all to see the
That's
master
it.
planning that kind of builds the logic foundation of this thing. So this is the recommendation. So the things highlighted in whatever that is, gray or green, is what we would propose to get done this summer. Leave out, and want you to notice, leave out those other buildings that we would propose to
Eventually
address
go away.
in the next bond cycle.
If you remember just the slide we were looking at, this is building F and it stays. These stay because those are to be replaced way down the road.
Yeah, much later.
And then these pieces are now interconnected. This is new, so this is left alone. And these all get replaced and then get interconnected. So that was the idea between not trying to spend any money where if you should consider to move forward with the other plan, you didn't just put in new windows in it. That was the idea.
And obviously, we would hold the funding associated with the library renovation, hold it, and then leverage that with whatever funding we need to make the whole campus complete, so to speak, in terms of classrooms and libraries.
Other questions from anybody else? Ms. Freeman?
Yes, thank you. I would like to, the presentation was at the building, and I do appreciate administration taking the time and allowing us to look this forward thinking, if you will, when we talk about renovations of a particular school, that we don't spend money only to turn around and tear it down and then do something else in the future. So I appreciate this type of thinking and this type of planning. Because it was in the bond, I do think that somehow we need to talk about communicating that to our community so that they know what we're thinking about regarding that. So I'm able of, and it's rather complicated, but I would say Dr. Woods's recommendation, administrative
Right here.
recommendation.
Second.
Actually, if I could, what we'd like to do, and I appreciate what you said, what we'd like to do is bring you back an actual schematic of
Okay.
an actual schematic of this work that we've highlighted in green, very likely next month, and seek your approval at that time for that. We'll continue this conversation around the phasing and the costing of this renovation work in building committees, as we go forward. But with the board's permission, we'd like to wait a month and bring you a schematic on what you see here.
Okay, Mr. Blunt had a comment also?
Yeah, and I'm fine with the suggestions. I would just say one other consideration for the building committee, as you're talking about the future, is, from my mindset, avoid fence as possible, and I'll tell you why. Mine is, sometimes you get the reputation of a school is constantly under construction, and it has that appearance. So, there's ways we can avoid that and get everything done. I'm talking the future stuff at once, as opposed to every couple of years, every bond package. Please consider that also.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Other comments? Ms. Chumley?
I'll tell you where I've got a concern. And so, as we're looking towards another bond program, I think we really need to make some decisions. Bobby, I completely agree on the phasing piece. And I think we need to make some decisions on what we're going to be doing, because where I'm very uncomfortable about us doing this is when we sold the 2014 bond, we said we were going to do this to the Glen Oaks community, and I completely agree with you, Karen. And having been part of the program, having been involved in this school district long enough to have been part of where we had said we were doing something to our community and we didn't do it, our community spoke back and told us how they felt about that. And so even though this is not on any way on the same scale of what that was, I still am very uncomfortable that we are now coming in and saying we're going to change something. So Brian, that's why I felt a whole lot more comfortable with saying we'll add $500,000 to it and get the first part of it done, versus saying we're not going to do it and we're going to hold off and then put it in another bond. So I think that when we're talking about what we're doing on the 2018, we need to avoid any of these types of situations, and not put in that situation of telling our community we're not doing something that we asked them to support us in that many years ago. So
I don't know that we have to declare the decision on how to handle the library and the classroom done. That's a conversation we can continue to have as well. What we wanted to try to highlight is, are you comfortable essentially leaving some of this work undone in preparation for future construction, demolition and construction? But to your point, I think that's a conversation that, again, I think maybe in the building committee we can go back and revisit. Do you want to consider that timeline?
And I think what you're coming back, and thank you for doing that, because really I think it would have been much worse had we had you do stuff and then
Come back 2 years later.
2018 we're coming back and tearing it all down, and very few architects would come back and tell us cut our budget. So thank you for doing
Yeah,
that as well. But I think that's a great thing that we're looking at in that way. I am concerned about.
The rationales for bringing the 4 others is because this is how we're starting to plan our next bond, to ensure that we don't do things that we're going to have to undo at a later date or a very, very short period of time.
I do think, though, that we probably need to have the conversation about the phasing piece, because I think Bobby's got a really good comment in relation to that, too. Thank you.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
we need a
She
motion
made a
on
motion.
that?
Yeah, it is.
Don't need a motion.
Oh, we're not, oh, okay.
Yeah, because he's got to bring it
Come
back.
back next month with schematic?
Draw it.
And do we need something with the front of the building? Do we need to look at the front of the building?
There was one about.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, wait a minute, before you leave, the front of the entrance to the building that is under construction, and we looked at the colors on it,
I think we had,
Interior.
exterior. Not all the board members saw it ahead of time. You all did. I had a concern because it looked like the part next to us was being highlighted more than the entrance itself. And so I asked them to the blue level to make the entrance more.
This is one of several boards.
If you recall,
like A.
back when we did schematic design, we had several options of different elevations in terms of color. This is what was selected for schematic design, and then when we went to building committee, it was, well, maybe that's too much blue. Can we look at reducing the amount? So one discussion we had was to lower it right to basically the canopy line. So we now have basically an option A and an option B.
My concern is that the entrance is usually the one that is highlighted, and in option A, I didn't feel like it was being highlighted. I felt like the part next to it was. So if everybody's okay with A, that's fine, or if somebody would like to have B instead. Do I have any comments?
Are there any doors in A? I mean, in that building part of A, Katie?
On the blue part?
Yeah.
Those are windows.
They're all just windows?
No, just windows.
Just windows. The challenge with
Makes it look
windows
old when
is,
they-
as you know, it's
very
a different kind of setup in terms of school.
Mhm.
So, you know, once you walk onto the sidewalk, we've got about 10 feet, and then you're on a drive, which is not your standard setup. So it doesn't have the ability for us to architecturally make this a large, grandiose piece like we have in other schools that we've done for you, whether it's Blackman or Hoffman or any of those others, where this is literally twice as large. For the sake of scale, considering we have existing buildings on both sides that we have to be aware of, we really wanted to be sensitive to that and not create this eyesore. So, from a scale standpoint, we didn't have that ability, but what we did have was color. That was something we discussed several months ago when we did schematic design, and, you know, we'll do whatever you guys want. But this was certainly a good option.
And I may be the only person that likes B better, but
Whatever you could.
any other thoughts?
I did
Oh,
push
I'm sorry.
Lopez.
First, Mr. Lopez.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I really do like the option B. I mean, option A, as far as the blue, it kind of stood out a little bit. It was eye-popping, and it was taken away from the front door. So I really like option B, so I'm pretty much in support of what you're saying, so.
Dr. Harrell?
Everything he just said, I say the opposite.
I'm right there with you,
I
Carol.
like eye popping. I don't like it to look like, vanilla,
like A.
stone. I like blue. I think we can tell it's a door because it's a door. There's two doors, and the others are windows. So, sorry about that, but
Okay,
Carol, right there with you.
it's elementary school.
that's what you all think too? Okay. Okay, it sounds like the
What do y'all?
opinion is probably to keep it option A. Is it? Bobby?
You know, Clint Eastwood once said a man's got to know his limits. Y'all got this.
He doesn't do colors.
No,
Okay,
No.
we'll stick with A.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Sorry,
Joelle.
sorry I muddled the waters there.
No, you didn't. That was
We're
good.
moving forward.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we are now ready for item C, which is the construction manager at risk for Holmes High School.
Yes, Ms. Reed, thank you. 2014 bond program provided for the auditorium replacement project at Holmes High School. First phase of the construction delivery method is solicitation of a construction manager at risk and establishing the fees for the service, which is based on a percentage of the construction cost. As final construction drawings are developed, a GMP will be developed is determined, by the contractor and reviewed by the architect, engineer, and of course us. Any cost savings realized after the construction is completed is returned 100% to the district. Requests for competitive CO proposals for construction manager at risk were received on September 26, 2016. Texas Education Code and Board Policy CV and CVB authorized this construction delivery method. Approval to award a construction manager at risk delivery method for the auditorium replacement project at Holmes High School to Bartlett Koch General Contractors is recommended. The anticipated percentage is 5.84, which is composed of the cost of general conditions, construction, and the construction fee. The fee figures anticipated to be established in April of 2017. And as some of you may know, this is going to be a two-phase project, so we're going to have two kind of what we call modified GMPs until we get to the final one, because we want to go and tear the building down, do parking lots first, and then do the building.
Okay. So, Ms. Chumley?
I just wanted to say that I think we're really fortunate that we have such outstanding contractors that bid our jobs, and that I think that our staff works very hard to make sure that we follow a matrix that really tries to make this as fair a process as possible. And I just want to commend you on the work that y'all did. I know that this had a lot of review to it.
That's correct.
And it's a good thing to have that people want to bid on our jobs. But with that, I want to move approval of the recommendation.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the recommendation for Bartlett Cock to be the general contractor on the Holmes High School project. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. That was a bunch. It was okay.
That was a lot.
Okay, moving on to business and finance and talking about the tax roll.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Attached to your agenda item this evening is a resolution to approve the Northside ISD tax roll for 26 in compliance with Section 2009E of the Texas Property Tax Code. Also attached is summary information that was provided by the Bexar County Tax Assessor Collector, which shows the levy by category. This, I do want to bring to your attention, this item is typically brought on our consent agenda each year, but however, we did not have the information for the presentation at the October Finance Committee meeting, so this item has been brought forward in the regular agenda this evening. The administration would recommend the approval of the 2016 tax roll as presented.
Okay. Mr. Lopez?
Yes, Katie, I go ahead and I motion that we approve the tax roll, certified tax, 2016 certified tax roll, as presented by David Rostalini.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2016 tax roll as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
So
Thank you,
can I-
Mr. Astellini. Yes.
So can we sign that tonight?
The resolution,
Can we go ahead
yeah,
and?
along with those 150
Oh,
other
we've
pages.
got the, yes,
all right.
just one more while the hand,
Thank you very much.
what's one more? Yeah.
You have it there somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I don't have it yet, but maybe if you want to get it, we're here.
Okay, the next item that we have is from Human Resources, and it is talking about insurance.
Yes, we are. President Reed, Dr. Woods, members of the board, we're here tonight to make a recommendation to you for the renewal of our property, boiler, and machinery insurance. Making our presentation tonight is Director of Risk Management, Debbie Glass.
Thanks. Thanks, Debbie.
I will say just real quickly, Debbie, that Debbie provided you a copy of paper handouts in your blue folder if you so desire to look at them.
Okay. Good evening. This upcoming policy year, all coverage and deductibles are basically the same, few minor changes, with the exception of the wind and hail deductible. This change in deductible is due to the large losses in 2016 caused by the wind and hail storms in the state of Texas. Commercial insurance companies are moving from a per occurrence deductible to a per location deductible, and I'll explain a little bit about that. Prior to this renewal year, we had a deductible per occurrence of $250,000. With the April 2016 hailstorm, we have a $60 million loss. We'll recover all dollars minus the $250,000 deductible. Okay. Given the options for property renewal, all the while trying to minimize cost to the district and ensure adequate coverage, we considered three factors. How much coverage do we need? What deductible do we choose to minimize cost to the district if another catastrophic hailstorm should occur? And how much do we want to pay in premium for this coverage? To determine how much coverage we need, McGriff and I conducted an analysis which basically states our maximum foreseeable loss to be about $200 million. This is summarized on page 2 of your handout. In looking at which wind hail deductible we should choose, we did a comparison based on the actual 2016 hail damage claim. If we went with a 1% wind-held deductible per location, the district would have paid $11.3 million in deductible. That's based on the $60 million loss that we experienced in 2016. At a 2% wind-held deductible, the district would incur $19.2 million in deductible. This information is on page 3 of your handout. However, to minimize our deductible, we propose purchasing a buy-down option to cap our deductible at $2.5 million. So instead of the $11.3 million out-of-pocket deductible, we would pay $2.5 million. This is also on page 3. We are recommending approval for Lexington Insurance with a $400 million loss limit, a 1% wind-hail deductible, and a cap on the deductible at $2.5 million. Our premium would be $1.4 million. That's an increase of a little over $500,000. This is a one-year policy term. Hopefully we can get a better rate next year. Questions? Do you have questions for us?
So this was not unexpected, and unfortunately, we're going to all see similar things when we see our homeowners policies come out. So we knew that this would be the case. So what we've tried to do here in Debbie's analysis with our consultant is to kind of balance all of those three factors that she mentioned, to have a loss limit that was reasonable, that still gave us enough coverage, and do a buy down on the deductible so that our exposure is capped at $2.5 million essentially, which is something that is manageable for a system our size and a budget our size. And I think it's important what Debbie said, 1 year agreement, and then we hope that a year from now we'll see much more favorable conditions and can lower this premium.
Yes, ma'am.
Question? Yeah, go ahead.
In the past, and I know we've talked about this being a one-year premium in the past, how long have we been guaranteed a specific premium?
Gosh, for the 12 years I've been here. Now, I'm not sure about prior to that.
I'm just curious.
You're talking about for the premium that we had last year?
I think how often
How
have we
long
gone
a
out?
policy? How long is the
term?
policy?
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, so usually it's 2 + 1 or 1 + 2, however we want to lay it out. So usually 3 years, we get a 3-year term.
I was just curious.
And hopefully by next year, when we renew this again, it would be for a longer period of time rather than just by 1 year? Or
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
anticipate they might give us the option to extend it for 1 year?
We could always do that. We could always ask what their rates are going to be and what their premium would be and whether or not we want to stay with them. But again, if not, we just go out for RFP.
Ms. Chumley?
But I wanted to commend Debbie. I had talked to her today to review the insurance piece of it, and she's really did a good job and was actually able to answer every question that I had about it. So I just really wanted to thank you. And you could tell that you had done a lot of research on it. I don't like that it's 1 year either. However, what we were talking about is looking to see if there's other carriers out there that maybe weren't on, that did not bid on it, but kind of are in this niche of insuring educational facilities, and seeing if next year can broaden that scope a little bit and entice someone else to maybe take a look at it. I'm afraid what we're seeing is probably what all of us are going to be seeing from a personal perspective, particularly in Texas. I think we've got double-digit increases that are going to be coming just from the personal side of it. So I think it's a good recommendation. And when we were talking about it, we were saying, okay, well, we really have the choice of, do we pay the additional $333,000, which is the difference between having the cap at the $2.5 million, and it's kind of like rolling dice. We're rolling dice that we're not going to have another weather-related event like we had, and then we'd end up where we may not have that much out of pocket. But if we have another, then we could end up being, $16 million versus $2.5 million on it, which is the piece what she's talking about on the buyback. So I just think that it's a really good recommendation for us to look at and consider at this time.
Other questions from anyone? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I move approval. Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the contract with Lexington for the insurance as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Patty. Okay, nothing with technology, so administration. Mr. Galendo.
Mrs. Reed, Dr. Woods, members of the board, this year since the start of school, we needed 0 waivers. That streak ends tonight. But it's only one. We do
That's
have
good.
yes, one classroom at Fisher Elementary that will ask for 1 waiver, 4th grade, to accommodate a family. So we'll request 1 waiver, Mrs. Reed.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Galendo?
No, but that's a great reason.
And do we hear a motion?
I move that we approve the request for maximum class size waiver.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the maximum class size waiver as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Superintendent.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Reed, members of the board, we have had a kind of a long-running conversation that was generated over a period of time around some requests to name facilities, and there's been some general conversation on the board about creating a memorial of type for veterans to honor those who perhaps fallen on duty. And so what we've tried to do tonight is collapse that with some other projects we've got going at our athletic facilities to bring you just some concepts, some ideas around how we could get at some of these requests. So this is really, this is on for discussion. What we hope is to generate just some commentary to help us, to help staff go forward in our work on these. But with that said, I'll say that I really appreciate what Leroy and his staff and a couple of architects have done in putting this together. I think there's some really good ideas for us to think about in this pack.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Woods. You have a handout here, then it follows the slides that are going to be up on the screen. The 3 items that I know that we have talked about at different times is the Veterans Memorial of an Influence and a Hall of Honor. So I will start off with the Veterans Memorial. And basically, again, this is just a point of discussion. We put some things together that could change, obviously. However, we wanted to start the conversation. So with that, the purpose of the tribute is to honor former NISD, students who have enlisted in the military and fallen in the line of duty. The Veterans Memorial is around the city, so to speak, around close to where we are, and we found 3 examples of such. First one was Edgewood, which is at Veteran Stadium, San Antonio ISD at Lanier High School, and Harlandale ISD at Memorial Stadium. So the first one you'll see is Edgewood, and as you can see, that's in front of the stadium that they have, and it's a monument. We broke up the pieces into elements. Element one is on the left-hand side of the memorial, and that's what it says off to the right of the presentation. So you can kind of see some of the verbiage and what their intent was, so to speak. Element 2 is the left side. As you can see, there's a verbiage again on that particular plaque that was put on that pedestal. Element 3 is one of the on the right side, so to speak, and it has an actual monument there. And then 4, which is the back side, has kind of like a wall of honor that has bricks or something very similar to that have been applied to a vertical surface, i.e. a wall. So that's what Edgewood has. San Antonio ISD is tucked away at Lanier High School. That opportunity, because I was there for a while, to actually had part of doing some of this. If I remember correctly, I think maintenance did part of the work on this as well. So it's actually at a high school, and it's between the main building and the Fine Arts building on the left-hand side. So it's almost right in front of the school, so to speak. And I know I've attended 1 or possibly 2 ceremonies there for Veterans Day. So that's another example. The monument on the left side, you can see what it says, basically, on slide number 10. Slide number 11 is kind of the whole monument in itself. Slide number 12 is the centerpiece, and you can read there what it says. And then the right side of it on slide number 13, you can tell there's the names of individuals that have actually fallen in various wars. The next one is Harlandale Independent School District. It's at Memorial Stadium. And as you can see, we have a couple of photographs that we obtained from them on basically what that starts to look like. So these are just images to kind of get our thinking going, so to speak, on different scenarios that have occurred in and around our county. So we looked at various locations, and we came to the location at Paul Taylor as seemed to be the most logical, at least from a point of departure. It has sufficient room to install an exterior monument along with a flagpole, sufficient space to hold a Veterans Day ceremony, which got a tradition, so to speak, and we heard about that especially at our schools. So we asked Mr. Roy Lewis of Garza Baumberger to provide us a sketch of location and image so that we can see what that would start. So on slide number 17, if you know what the orientation, of course, I'm sure you've been at Paul Taylor before. This is Paul Taylor. This is the front of it. The NAC is over here. Right in this space, there's a green space, so to speak, but there's also another green space here, back there, and back there. We thought this would probably be our most prominent place to hold something of this magnitude, so to speak, and it would be a circular piece. And of course, these are just images, so it's got to get the discussions going, that we could put with a back wall that could be used as a background for putting names, plaques, monuments, et cetera, et cetera. As you can see in the background, you barely could see those, but there are about 3 flagpoles up there. So this is one of the suggestions that we have at this particular point in time. So, and that's all about as far as we went with these presentation or that particular location, so to speak.
And it actually doesn't even have to be round, right?
No.
I mean, you're just really, that's a good
That's just
orientation of where it could be.
Exactly.
I like that.
So today we're just talking about location. If we can kind of get an idea if that's okay in terms of location. We went back and do something, give you more ideas. But I just Roy just put something in there that's symbolic of a spot where we would put a Veterans Memorial piece.
So quick, can you see it from the football stadium?
No.
Because I know the other schematics you showed, or at least the
Right.
Edgewood and the Harlandale one, you could see as you go into the stadium.
Correct, to the entry.
Okay, so then I had one other, so you can't see it from our stadium. It's only, and it's kind of, I'm just trying to see my mind.
stadium
It's,
is
I
right
might not
up here.
even see it when I go into Paul Taylor either.
No.
Okay.
You could see it
I
if you're
could,
in
but-
front. Right.
Okay,
But
so,
how would you not see it if you'd going in? Yeah, Carol, I think.
well, it'd be on one side. I'm just trying to see it.
Depends upon how tall, I
Yeah,
mean,
but
it's
it's
not
big
necessarily
enough,
gonna be
I
flat,
think.
it could be
Well, then,
upright.
and you'd bring a schematic back, so
Sure, I mean, we
size-wise.
could do views to see what the
Yeah.
visual.
And then,
That could be.
at Hero Stadium in Northeast, I know that's for veterans as well, and, honors. Is there not a, I may have walked by it or something, is there not
Never
a?
seen that one at Heroes,
I
to
was
be
just
honest
trying
with
to say, because that stadium would be more like our sizes versus Memorial or Edgewood.
Right.
Okay, we could find out, I guess, but,
I guess I'm picturing it large enough, Carol. I mean, because the one particularly like Lanier, that'd be too small. But this, I was thinking that you're talking about, if you take all of that corner,
Yeah.
I
It's a
don't
pretty
know
good-sized
be
corner.
pretty big.
if you would be, yeah, that
go
you would
look
be
at it.
able to miss it coming in on this, the side where we come in and go down underneath, if we came in there, or on the other side, which is that elevation up.
Especially if you have flagpoles with it.
Yeah, and
And then my only other thought would be, since we're so large, putting it at 2 sides of the district, so, anyway, we can wait and see what happens, but this is good. We need to do it.
It's a start.
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I was kind of looking through this toward the back, and we still talked about our this Hall of Honor inside Paul Taylor. Is there and I don't know if this is what you're talking about in the Hall of Honor, is there any place where we could actually put names of our students who have fallen in wars? Because that's what we get brought all the time to name buildings or yeah, something after one of our students. So is that a suggestion that you may have for the plaza, or for inside this, for inside Paul Taylor?
Our thinking was to make that in conjunction with wherever we're doing our large-scale memorial, to do that in conjunction with the large-scale memorial.
To have our students' names posted someplace.
And you just reminded me, so we recently lost a veteran, but he didn't pass away in a war. He was a John Jay student that rescued a child and then passed away. Are those veterans who passed away also allowed to be there? I mean, is that something we'll just have to make a decision on later on?
Yeah, I think
Whose name goes on there, whether it's a war?
that y'all have to
Okay,
make.
so we'll
Later.
keep that on the table as well.
Sure,
Whose names
absolutely.
go up there, okay.
We're just trying to work kind of towards the top of the funnel. You know, we know that this is a desire. We want to do this. We obviously want to do the project as well. We're just looking for a location and some general direction.
Now, I will say you'll probably see this from the road back up here, especially if it's, just remember, it's a berm site. The grade from the edge of the building down to the parking lot to this area is pretty steep. So we would actually cut into it to do a backdrop. So visibility would be probably, you can probably see it, especially with the flash.
Show the retaining wall on that right side.
Yes, retaining wall right here would hold the berm.
That's
that
where
goes
I
out.
was thinking that some of this
Names,
recognition
the names
of
would go in there.
individuals could happen.
And it
So-
can go taller.
Right. Well, it could go a little bit taller, it's just how much grade we have in there, but it's at least a couple of feet tall, at least. Maybe as tall as 4 feet.
Yeah, I think it's more like 4 feet tall.
As long as our families can touch it, because that's huge at the Vietnam Memorial, that you are able to touch it. So not high over
Right.
our heads. Okay.
And again, this is just a sketch. It could be pedestals, monuments, there, plaques, things of that nature. So we can explore all that if we decide that this is a place that you would like for us to consider.
Ms. Freeman? Do you have any? Okay. Mr. Lopez?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Katie. Leroy, I think you all have done a great job, and I think for me, and in honoring our veterans, I really like some of the examples that you've put up here, what other school districts have done. I really like the fact that you're honoring certain wars, you know, the Vietnam War, World War II, things like that. I think those are great ideas. One of the things that I am concerned about with is having to, as far as with the wall, I mean, and again, this is just me, with the wall engraving the name of the students that have passed in the war or that have gone on. I'm a little hesitant on that, only just because it becomes, you know, then we're constantly having to upgrade. You know, we're constantly etching in because some service members will pass away and things like that. So I'm a little worried about that. What I do like is the fact that we're able to honor the Marines. A simple memorial wall, I think, where it honors the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard, and things like that. I think if we're able to have those type, you know, or a wall that would signify each of the services or the branch of services, I think that would be good, because it eliminates, I guess, maintenance. And I'm not trying to mean it in a bad way. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not. I'm just trying to make it more simple. But I do like the wall, and I do like the ideas. I'm not sure as far as a statue with the, I don't understand what the symbol of the hat and the rifle and the boots. Is there a symbolism to that? What is it?
The one in
What is that?
Harlandale? Oh, yeah, it's a uniform.
Yeah, but I'm just kind of
on a
giving you my
grade.
ideas where I'm thinking at it.
on a
I'm
tube.
just, I like it, but I'm just kind of, something simple, I think is where it's honoring everybody.
Those images were really just as
Sure,
a
yeah,
matter
yeah,
to
yeah.
kind of, those aren't, we're not suggesting that those are
Right.
necessarily what fills this space or whatever the space ends up looking like. Obviously, that's a decision y'all would have to
Right.
make.
But I'm just saying, I like that. I'm just not sure. I'm just kind of running it through my head. So those are real neat ideas. Uh, Again, also, honoring the war, the different wars, because I do get hear people, well, nobody honors the Vietnam veterans, I hear of things like that. And so, I mean, those are some of the things that I've heard. But I think it's a great idea. I think we're on the right track, by specifically putting something together where we as a district, I like the location. I think it's fine. My only concern is it's right there, too close to the corner. Can it be easily vandalized? I'm not sure, right there on the corner. So maybe do we push it back a little bit? I mean, orientation is fine, but I'm saying I like the design, I like the concept, and I think we're on the right track with that. So I'm liking what I see so far. So, thank you very much.
Okay.
Oops, sorry, I hit the button again. I
Moving
didn't
forward,
mean to.
oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Chumley? you had a lot?
I really like this a lot. However, when I guess I just know that, and absolutely they're ships. I mean, but when you go on to, and I don't know if they have one on the Lexington, but I know they have one on the USS Alabama, where you walk in and they have this wall and it's all the Medal of Honor winners. And most of them are, were killed during, and it's just so touching, and it tells a story about them. I mean, I went and saw that when I was a little kid, and it just really had a huge impact on me on the way that was presented. And I think it's absolutely great to recognize our athletes, particularly our athletes that, go on and are stellar and have great careers and become professional, football players and basketball players. But to me, this takes precedence honoring these gentlemen and women. I was going to say, Carol, you got it. And women. And to me, a Hall of Honor like this with their names means just, I don't know, just me personally, it means a lot more than seeing a pro athlete's name here to Northside. I'm sorry, it just does. And really, please, that's not to take away from the athlete. I think that there's places to honor our athletes, and then I just think this just is more, I don't know, there's just something about it. And I agree with Carol. If it's your family member, you want to see their name. You want to see their name. You want to be able to touch it or read about them or know who they were and that sacrifice was made. So actually, if it was up to me to have this with what Gerald's talking about, and then I'd put all of their names in here, and when you walked into Paul Taylor, is what I would do.
On the wall?
Yeah, I really like that. I really like that. Inside Paul Taylor, as you walk in, where you have a Hall of Honor, and you can use
Would it
our
not
new
be
gym.
behind a cover, though? You see, that's what you don't want, because people want to take a piece of paper and put it on there and rub on it and get the imprint. So that's what you're talking about, I think, is that it needs to be where they can touch it and they can actually get that imprint on their piece of paper.
I think the piece of it, Katie, I like the story. I don't want to just see their name. I want to know who they were and where they went to school and what they did.
And you're going to put all of that up there?
Yeah, it's not that big a, it's not
It's a
that.
lot, it could be a lot of people, though.
I don't know, maybe that's the thing, is to find out, is to judge how many, and it was interesting too, because, who was it that was speaking? And I don't even remember where we were or what they were speaking, but the gentleman said the difference between Memorial and Veterans Day, that Memorial Day is where you honor those who sacrificed their lives, whereas Veterans Day is when you honor veterans who have served. And so to me, this is more memorial versus veterans. So I don't know, for what that's I don't know, I just feel pretty strongly about them.
I agree. So since 1955, we've had a lot of wars. We've also had a lot of things between the wars where we've lost soldiers. And so, you know, we I guess can gather numbers somehow. Maybe that's an HR homework assignment. I don't know.
Is there a way for us to do that?
How we could,
I'm
how we,
aware of.
because it could help in decision-making what the memorial would look like and
You'd
how
have to
large.
essentially figure out a way to create an algorithm to run
Algorithm?
lists.
I think what happens on these memorials after you do the linear one, once you put it up there, then families started coming in and
Right.
saying, my son or my father that went to the
It's-
school.
There's really
Before you know
more
it, that memorial gets bigger and
self-selection
bigger.
than it was the
Somehow, yeah.
district deciding.
So,
Which means
Prison-
we have to have our parameters in place then
Yeah.
of what.
Well, I think probably this is a first discussion, and we're
correct.
glad that you're looking along these lines of something that could possibly come to fruition. And so this is really just a first look, so we'll continue to investigate. and-
there's
I
two
think it's
more,
great.
there's two more pieces to the presentation, Ms. Reed.
Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
okay.
Well,
And
okay.
Mr. Blunt.
Yeah, just real quick on this portion. And I really like it, to be honest. I like having it outdoors does, to me, have special meaning for veterans, and it's more traditional in the country when you look at
Yeah.
where we honor veterans and memorial that it's outside. When you start going inside, then it is more of an athletic or other type of things that have achievement. So that's one thing to consider is what's the tradition within the country. And we can get probably get feedback from veterans and others on their thoughts on it too. So that's the only thing I have, but I really like it. I think it's really great, and we'll continue the dialogue. I know we got different, but I definitely would have the names, so I think we have to have the names. But we'll have more dialogue
But
about
not the
that
whole
later.
story, just the name.
Just the name,
Mr.
yeah.
Lopez, do
Or
you have
class
something else?
up.
Your
Well,
lights-
maybe
your lights
there's
on.
a way
Okay.
to do that.
And then.
Mr. Medina.
No, I was just going to go over, are we just memorializing those in the line of duty memorial? Is that the 1% you're talking about, blue, not only soldiers, but also those that are generally not recognized? If you're looking at, if it's Border Patrol, we have those individuals that we need to consider as well when we're looking at memorial. Especially if it's in the line of duty or defending freedom, the 1%. Thank you.
Okay, that's a good point.
Go ahead.
The other is the Plaza of Influence. It's something I know that we've talked about, and generally what we were thinking about was that those individuals who have had a positive impact on the education of that north side. So as you can see, we also reached out to Mormon and Mock because they just finished the sports gym and asked them to kind of brainstorm ideas. So the first image that you see on slide number 20 is scheme 1. It's a freestanding pedestal, and we're talking about these little things right here. What is existing is this brown area, which is pavers. Here, 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 and there. There's 4 of those areas that have pavers, and we're talking about putting a pedestal on either end. Monica, you go to the next slide. You could see a higher view, aerial view. There's a pedestal there, and there's a pedestal there. And we could also put something in there in terms of verbiage that relates to the reason why the Plaza and Foods exist and things of that nature. So that's one. In the next slide, you'll see what we're really talking about is something that looks like this. And that would be in the 2 areas on the outer, because that's where the people come in, is from
And
the corner,
explains
so to speak.
why those names are there, right?
Exactly. And anything else that we think would be appropriate. The next is putting 2 pedestals and then putting a large monument in the middle, kind of in the center of the plaza, so to speak. So that's what they would look like. So you got pedestals on either side, and you have a large monument right in the center. They don't go inside these brown areas because this is actually the center of the gym, so to speak. So here's another, oops, went too far, hold up. Okay, so that's one. And if we wanted to really get elaborate, so to speak, and just keep on going, we got 2 pedestals and 2 monuments inside those paver areas. So that's another possible alternative is to kind of line those up in those rectilinear spots that exist already in those paver areas. And that's what it would start to look like. And again, these are just first blush ideas to get the conversation going.
2 and 2.
So that's what would be, so if you could go back to the plaza. We have a multitude of ideas. I think there's some that are floating up
You're
on,
putting the bricks
from our
in.
perspective, and
Started
what we
putting
would
the
like to
bricks
see
in.
there, but
Okay. Okay.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving right along.
Well, wait,
Okay.
any comments on that?
Anything?
They're awfully tall.
I kind of like the small ones on the end, which tell what is there and describe why we have the bricks in the plaza. I don't know that we need the tall ones.
They're 20
That's
feet tall.
my position anyway, so.
Well, it could be less than that.
You could design it any way you want.
Yeah, we can make it smaller.
Wow.
One of the reasons I like it is if you don't walk through that area and you're in the stadium, or for that matter, you're in the gym, you really don't know what's going on there. And so I don't know that you're going to be drawn to the smaller podium with the descriptor, the plaque that has the descriptor, and that you might wander through there and look at the names. I think something, whether it's this or something else, that's illuminate, that's in the middle of that thing, draws your attention to that space.
And if it would be marble, would they be able to also put the gentleman's name, women's name, so those that have fallen?
This
Because
is that.
if this is that,
To honor.
People who've had an influence on Northside kids.
this is the brick one where we're selling the bricks.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So-
Would you be
Different
just as
group.
happy if you had one tall one right in the middle?
Yeah, I don't, yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
kind of like the one
I
tall.
I do like the one,
We don't need 4 of them, I don't think.
but I do like
Having it taller.
a plaque, a small one on each end that, as you said, describes what's there.
Okay.
And then something in the middle that's more prominent that draws
It just
you
says
to the
plaza,
space.
plaza of influence.
Exactly.
It doesn't have a plaque. It just says plaza.
Right, just draws you to the space.
Karen, go ahead.
I'm sorry, there's 4 blocks, so if you have 2 small ones at each end, how do you have one in the middle?
It's not in the blocks.
Okay,
Yeah, it's in the,
okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
it's not in the actual, one of the actual brick area.
It's
There
right
you go.
there.
Right there in
it is,
the
right
center,
there.
and then you can do pedestals from either side. And we leave
Okay.
these blank.
And we've sold quite a few of the bricks already.
That's correct.
So,
Okay. I like that.
comments on that?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah, moving forward.
like, okay, you want us to
Keep
do
going.
it?
Yeah. We're already doing it.
How about, okay, bring us back what your ideas are of what that's gonna look like and what it's gonna say.
The
The
plaque. is-
plaque with a monument plaque?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
We can do that.
Yeah, I mean, a 20-foot marble, that, I mean, that's tall.
20
I
foot.
don't know
It
about
can
marble,
be-
but
Or
It
whatever.
can be any height.
it could be
19 feet.
shorter, it could be taller. I think we need to do some
How
studies.
tall is the balcony? How tall is our
Oh, that's,
patio?
the bottom side of it is maybe 30.
Oh, okay,
25
good,
or
never
30
mind.
feet.
It's not
Okay.
gonna block anybody's view.
No, but I was trying to get perspective,
it's not
Katie,
gonna
on how tall that 20 feet's.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
So this was our idea around the space that has been redesigned inside Paul Taylor. Now, that was prior to tonight's conversation, so take that, for what it's worth.
Yeah, but Brian, I'm the only one that felt that way about the inside piece, and I think Bobby's got a good comment about
Needs to be outside.
the outside, that, however, they do have, I think, Gerald, we do need to have their name, though,
Oh, I'm fine with that.
on it if you're,
Sure,
yeah.
outside.
So if we want it, I mean, if everybody else is all right with us using this to do the athletes and coaches and stuff, then I think that's fine.
Olympians,
Looks
things of that
good.
nature.
These
we
would
can
be
bring some-
outstanding, and not just every run-of-the-mill athlete. It's going to be the ones that made Olympics, et cetera, professional teams.
It's very nice.
We can sort of bring the
And behave.
criteria, make a stab at
Yeah,
it,
we
trying to
can
figure out what that looks like.
Deal with that
Bring
down
it
the line.
back. But if it's okay, then we will start planning on that's what the infill is gonna start to look like. And we'll always come back and share that with you.
Sure.
Especially because we're getting ready to put this out for bids here in not too long from now.
Paul Taylor.
Paul
Well, and we
Taylor
need to talk the
renovations.
parameters too, right?
Right.
On who, and what are we gonna put in there?
Okay, can I
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Trustee Reed. In a way, don't we already, we have this already, correct, at Paul Taylor? I mean, there's the,
There's stuff there about Paul Taylor.
no, there's actually the NFL athletes
a
and other
few.
things. Everybody forgets that we've already had this, that most people forget.
Where is
It's
it,
still there,
Bobby?
correct?
It's right there.
It's in that same space where it is now. I think the thinking is to make it
That's fine.
more robust.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the board knows that we already have started
I
this
didn't know
years
that,
ago, and
Bobby.
it's already in place.
Yeah.
I can't remember how many years it's been since I came in on the top. You know? I'll have to go look at that.
All right, well, we'll work in this direction then.
Okay,
Okay.
thank
That's all
you.
I had. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Leroy.
And I think that takes us down to future agenda items.
Yes, ma'am.
In your blue folder, you should have a list, right?
You should. In your blue folder, you've actually got a couple of invitations. We mentioned week after Thanksgiving is the dedication of the sports gym. You've also got an invitation to the NEF 2016 annual meeting. We've got the Tassatasby Legislative Conference upcoming in February. If you're interested in that, if you'll communicate with Ms. McGee, there's not a cost but space limitation. So
It's in Austin.
it's in Austin,
wants to
February the
carpool?
21st.
Let's go, let's carpool.
Yeah,
If you'll just tell Ms. McGee,
I'll drive.
I wanna go.
I'll drive.
and then you've got future agenda items. Obviously, the meeting in December, like the meeting in November, is a little early due to the holiday. And then, obviously, in part of the January meeting, as you know, will be school board recognition month events.
Can I ask, in this little thing, it says that we should contact our legislators now to make appointments?
We've been doing that.
No, while we're there, did you read this?
Oh,
Yeah,
For the afternoon.
yeah, for the afternoon.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, instead of all of us calling, is
who-
there, can
Gerald?
we just?
Joseph, and Dr. Woods, who might we contact that hasn't been responsive yet to go to this?
to go see them?
To go see them, yes. Who else do we need?
Well, it doesn't hurt to go visit all of them again. I mean, when we see them, we saw them like before the election. The more times you talk to them, the better.
1 to 5, so we can figure out who that is from 1 to 5.
Yeah, and some of them probably we had to take turns going to see, because we have a lot of people that represent us, because we're so big.
Will that
Well,
be
that's,
meeting with the
if we could narrow it down.
Maybe, maybe.
Meeting just with their staff is a
Yeah.
little different
I
than
know.
meeting with the representative.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's
Let-
whoever you can get.
Let Ms. McGee and I work on that.
On a list, yeah.
Okay.
Between 1 to 5, that's 4 hours, so who can we go see?
Yeah, there's
And,
quite a few.
and I don't know
I'll-
that we have time to see someone we've already talked to. I think they heard our agenda and they've seen, but
Well, and we'll have another session here with everybody. Are we gonna have a luncheon
some
with them?
more. We'll have a luncheon. We've got some more scheduled too.
Yeah, and we need to set
Meetings.
up one with Philip Cortez.
Mm-hmm.
Anna Campbell, Donna.
Mm.
All right, I'll set that up.
I'll
Does she represent you?
I'll
A
weigh
part of
in on.
Northside she represents.
A little
yes,
bitty,
not me.
little bitty.
But she's on the committee, on the education committee, so it's not just who represents a large part of Northside, but who has a lot of influence on that committee.
Okay.
It may not have a Dr. Woods to call and ask for information.
Okay.
You
Is
know,
that
to use as
everything?
a sounding board.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
So, the Board of Trustees on November 15th, beginning at 9 o'clock, will convene and close the meeting in accordance with Texas Government Code Sections 551.072 and 551.074 to talk about sites and appointments. So, thank you for coming. Okay, the board ended, let's see, the Board of Trustees on November 15th, beginning at 10:25, will convene in an open meeting. and will take place on, action will take place on the following items. The two appointments that we discussed. Do I hear a motion to approve the appointments?
Yes, so moved.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the appointments as presented in closed meeting for the vice principal at Warren and the assistant principal at Folks Middle School. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. So the board is ending its meeting tonight, 10:28.